Well, welcome in Broncos country, as it is once again time for another episode of Building the Broncos. And of course, we have the joy of Mr. Nick Kendell. I've moved across the country to the great Northwest and has finally settled in. So he gets to join us once again. Very excited, Nick. Good to see you. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing pretty well. I had a slate of interviews today. I got more tomorrow, trying to figure out some long-term career options for me here in the Seattle area. The wife has a job at Kaiser Permanente going forward. But yeah, we arrived in Seattle. I have a house. Fingers crossed the internet holds up for us tonight. If not, we'll figure something out. But be on standby for that because this is the first time doing that in this new place. Carl was saying I should have good internet, but I've seen some people complain about the internet here or there. I mean, it's just with so many people getting on the C word that we're not supposed to say, etc. So, but yeah, no, it's great to be back. Great for some normalcy. And gosh, football is coming. I'm just so excited for football.
I have to tell on you a little bit here. So Nick and I were talking about what to talk about today, and I said we should do our 53-man roster, and he goes, "Oh, let's just wait. Let's do that next week." And I said, "It's too late next week, man. Football's here."
Oh snap! You're right. I blinked, and this entire month went by. This month has just been a cluster. You know what? So, but I'm really happy to be here and excited to talk 53-man. I mean, building the Broncos. We're subtracting the Broncos, I guess, here. Subtracting down to the Broncos. But I'm excited to do that.
Right. Getting to that we're building the final roster is how we're going to word this for today. So we're excited that you can join us, and it's going to be a fun episode. But we also want to let you know that today's episode is sponsored by sportsbetting.com. Enter the free $1 million pick'em contest by visiting sportsbetting.com/pick'em-football. That's sportsbetting.com/pick'em-football for a chance to win $1 million. And make sure that you're finding us on Twitter because we'd love to talk to you wherever we get a chance. You can find me at Carl Dumler MHH and Nick at Nick Kendell MHH. You can follow the podcast Twitter account at BTB Football Pod, and make sure you subscribe to our show wherever you listen to podcasts. We really appreciate that, and leave us a rating. And of course, make sure you head on over to milehighhuddle.com of Sports Illustrated. There's going to be a lot of information with these cut downs from 80 to 53. So make sure you're heading over there as soon as possible, and know that our podcast is powered by Overtime Media.
And yeah, out of the gate, I want to say hello to a bunch of people in the chat because you guys are the reason we're here. Well, the Broncos, that's the reason we're all here. I didn't want to make that sound biblically, but the Broncos above all. But you guys in the chat, Ernie Mays, always coming in, Denver Broncos, greatest team, greatest fans, greatest pod, greatest God, and God first also. So Ernie, I saw somebody saying they better give Ernie a shout out. I think Ernie just added me as a Facebook friend. So Ernie, brace yourself for memes and science because that's the brand, and football. We got Stephen Baumgartner in the house, Dennis Elliott, Robert Kitchens, Twin Mafia, Stu McPeak. Stu, I'm here in Seattle now. Hit me up, man. CC's in the house. Ryan Hamilton. Is Nick back? Yes, Nick is back. And Dylan Von Arks, Terry Randall, Gary Palmer. So this is awesome. James Campbell, obviously, Buwana Beast. And we got our first super chat here. Carl, let's get to these super chats. We want to talk about the 53-man roster. But we don't want to ignore these super chats for too long. They're too important to us. So Mr. Boggins coming in. Oh, go ahead.
Well, yeah, and this first one right off the bat, dealing with the 53-man roster. I think they keep 7 receivers and 5 tight ends. Sutton, Judy, Patrick, Hamler, Hamilton, Spencer, Cleveland, and Fant, Albert O, Beck, Butt, and Vanette. Interesting. That's a lot devoted to the weapons.
I have 6 receivers and 4 tight ends, but it's like 4.5. So if that gives any indication of who I have, we'll get to it. But Mr. Boggins, I like where your head is at for sure. I think there's one on there that I don't have, but I'm hoping that he is a practice squad. So you guys can probably guess. There's some context clues there. Terry, I already gave you a shout out. Today's podcast is always also brought to you by Terry Randall via #Nick's Beer Fund, because nobody likes to see me drink beer more than Terry Randall. And I love you for that, Terry. My liver, maybe the little hit or miss there, but you, as far as I go, absolutely. We also have Mr. Boggins, my intro song for the pod, where I say Carl and Nick makes sense now. Welcome to Seattle, man. Mr. Boggins, thank you very much. And again, Dylan, thank you. Good to be back. And really important matter of business here, guys. Jim Hilton on top of it for us. click the thumbs up. Go Broncos, guys. Like, subscribe, share. That's a huge thing for us. If you like the show also, big thing you can do to help us, huddleuppod.com. Get your swag on. Got these beautiful Bronco caps. I'm into Mile High Insiders as well, but these are still my favorite, Carl. But also it's because Carl sent it to me, so it has some sentimental value as well. And Stu McPeak coming in here as well. Great to see you, Stu. Facebook user. I don't see who this is, but welcome back. Hope the move was smooth, Nick. Let's go Broncos. Other than getting absolutely pelted in South Dakota by a giant storm, move was pretty smooth. Saw some grizzly bears in the Grand Tetons, which was pretty cool as well. And Terry Randall, Carl's majestic beard. Carl, we need a new superlative for that because your beard is just glorious. I'm pretty jealous. I shaved today for all my my Zoom interviews.
We decided we're going to start where everybody that works for Mile High Huddle has to grow a beard for like 6 months. Let's see what we end up developing. It could get ugly though. It could get ugly. Yeah. But that's
we'll see. You got a head start, man. You can grow a nice beard there. I think Eric, Lance, and myself are going to be struggling in that department a little bit. So it could be, but you know what? Can't be great in everything. But anyway, we should get to the point at hand here. The Broncos are going to cut down this Saturday to 53-man roster, despite my intentions of pushing it back a week. It's really unfortunate that Broncos couldn't do that for me since I've been so busy. But, Carl, I think the best way to start is probably on the offensive side of the ball. It's been the talk of the town since the offseason, the draft. I mean, everything surrounding Drew Lock, the weapons, offensive coordinator, et cetera. But we definitely want to start with the quarterback position. How many quarterbacks do you have making this roster?
I only have 2. Yeah. I think that they think Brett Ripien can make it onto the practice squad. And so I don't see any teams jumping it up and trying to take him. I don't see a lot of teams going crazy for anybody that gets cut and hits the waiver wire. So I think stick with 2, gives you that extra spot to go get somebody else, make sure that somebody else stays on the team. And I think they can feel comfortable with Drew Lock and Jeff Driscoll. Yeah,
I have the same 2 as you there. Jeff Driscoll making the squad. Hopefully we never see Jeff Driscoll. But Ripien, I mean, I know that he was okay at Boise State, but there's some threshold to speak of as far as mobility and arm strength that Ripien just doesn't have. At least I don't see when I've watched him. So I think more like Kellen Moore, who was a quarterback from Boise State, went to the late round pick, maybe undrafted, and now he's an offensive coordinator. I think that's probably the route for Ripien because they talk about him being super intelligent, really great with his teammates. He's a future coach. I mean, he's a future coach.
They said the same thing about Osweiler too. Some guys are better in the classroom, but can't always make it show up on the field. There's some instincts that have to show up. He did, but I'm just saying he showed better in the classroom than he ever did on the field. And so there are those guys. When you put a book in front of them, man, they can learn that like crazy. You stick them on a field with guys running at them, and those instincts just are not there to handle it. I think that's where you're seeing with some of the Broncos' past quarterbacks right now. All right, let's move on to the tailback position, halfback, whatever you want to call them. So I've got 3.
Do we have to? I heard they don't matter.
Pretty much. I mean, we're seeing today's NFL. I guess Joe Mixon just got paid, but you're seeing even Alvin Kamara, a guy that I think transcends the running back position and actually adds value because of his pass catching ability, not even getting a contract. So
where did you have him? Like your 3rd overall best running back?
Kamara?
Yeah.
I can't remember where I had him. Somewhere around there, though. I mean, he was top 5.
Yeah, I think right now I differentiate McCaffrey and Barkley from every other running back in the league, and there's a tier difference. And then I think Elliott's around there too. But they're looking to trade him. So say what you will. But they paid. I would say the Saints are smart for not wanting to pay him $15 million a year, but they also paid Taysom Hill a big contract. So like, you can't have it both ways.
Right. All right. So then we have I have Melvin Gordon, Phillip Lindsay, Royce Freeman. That's it.
I have the exact same 3. Yep.
Okay.
Hopefully Bellamy, hopefully to the practice squad.
Right.
If it was preseason, I think we'd have a real competition.
Yeah.
We really would get a chance to see it. But with this weird offseason, probably it's Freeman.
Yep. I'm with you there. And so wide receiver, is that where you want to go next?
Absolutely.
Okay. So here's mine. And I know some people are going to go a little crazy because there's a name that's missing off my list here. And I went back and forth whether he's a guy to add on because I had 2 roster spots at the end that I was still trying to figure out who I wanted. And I might go back and change this one. But Cortland Sutton, of course, Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler, Deshaun Hamilton, Tyree Cleveland, Deontay Spencer.
Wow, man, Luke is going to come for you because I don't know if there's anybody covering the Broncos that loves Tim Patrick as much as Luke does. So
it's a good thing you're back, man.
Yeah, I mean, Tim Patrick was starting to at least the start of camp, but I haven't heard much about him since then. And again, I'm much more of a live bullets tape kind of guy, so I can't speak to that so much. But I do have Tim Patrick in it instead of Tyree Cleveland, and so hopefully that will be an interesting one. And also, the main thing is because I think without the preseason action, you have a really good chance of Tyree Cleveland making the practice squad. I mean, there's no position in the NFL that's as deep as wide receiver right now. So teams are not really going to be looking to poach wide receivers as much as normal. Yeah. At least I think. So I think you got a much better chance of Tyree Cleveland sneaking him on the practice squad, especially with another good wide receiver crop coming up next year in the draft.
Yeah, it makes sense. I just the back end of things, of course, I went with guys that I think are going to be possibly special on special teams. Yeah. Deontay Spencer, of course, as the returner. Nice to have him there. It does sound like KJ Hamler is going to be ready for the season, so I'm not too worried about that one as much since he did return to practice today. Tyree Cleveland with that speed, getting down there on punt coverage, I like that. I like that he can go and make a really big play for him in that way compared to Tim Patrick, where, like I said, I think the first couple weeks of training camp, the guy had all the momentum because, I mean, he's getting first team reps, but it just does sound like he's kind of getting pushed down the list. And I've heard he's had some drop issues. It's just not been great. And there's just nothing that he's done that's been special at all. And when you got some of these other guys that have at least a special skill, I lean their direction at this point.
Well, you know what? Honestly, not to be selfish here, because obviously Tim Patrick's a person and we're not cheering against him. But again, Luke and I had a bet, and he said that if it came down to Patrick or Hamilton, he said Patrick was going to make it, and I took Hamilton just for the offensive fit. I think Hamilton's a much better fit for the Shermer offense. Yeah. So if it does come to that, Carl, fantastic. I have them both making it. I have the Tyree Cleveland not making the squad, go to the Packers squad. I also do have Deontay Spencer making it. That one is a little bit back and forth, but with KJ Hamler's injury, I feel like there's too much of an unknown there in that special teams ability. So yeah, maybe Spencer, 4 or 5 weeks into the season, finds himself on the outside looking in. But I think the original 53, given Hamler's injury, Spencer's on the roster.
Yeah. All right. Before we get to the others, I want to get to some of these super chats. Mundunga's coming in here. Yay, I get to make fun of Iowa some more. Thank you very much, Mundungas, for that super chat. And yes, you get to make fun of Iowa as much as you possibly want. And we do have a couple Iowa names that are probably going to come up here very soon. And so, yeah, make sure you're ready with those comments at that point. And James Campbell coming in here with the super chat. Hashtag the boys are back in town. Hashtag Carl's mustache wax fund. Hashtag Nick's micro brew fund. Hashtag West Coast best coast. Hashtag state of being. Hashtag MHHUN. There we go. Whew, that was a mouthful there.
A lot of hashtags going on.
Yeah, I appreciate that, James.
And we have, I haven't seen this name before, but I'd like to give shout outs to names. We got Clayton Huron coming in. Love the show, guys. Thank you, Clayton. And also, smash the like button, guys. From your lips to God's ears, Clayton. We appreciate that. And then also, here we go. Kevin Peterson. Good to see you, Kevin. Go ahead, Carl.
Do we got to be concerned about the offense given the recent practices, or is our D top 3?
Oh, gosh, it's one of those things. Like when camp first started, everybody was talking about how good the wide receivers looked. They were torching the second and third string defensive backs. You're just making a guess until you see them against opponents that aren't your own teammates. So I do think the D definitely has the potential to be the top 3. Now, the depth, especially in the back 7, that concerns me greatly. But I also think there's reason to be concerned about the offense and not concerned. I mean, it really can go both ways. It depends on what your perspective is, what your expectations are. I think the defense for sure has a chance to be top 3 this season. More likely top 7. I think that's the safer bet. I think they'll probably finish in the 5 to 7 range. And I think the offense is going to be inconsistent. You're going to see flashes. You're going to see a lot of pits as well. It's just going to kind of be a roller coaster.
Well, so, it really does depend on the opponent, because if a team has some really strong edge rushers, like what the Broncos bring every day in practice against their tackles, then yes, the offense is probably going to have their struggles. If you have teams that are better at interior pressure than out exterior pressure, Broncos might be able to hold up in that situation because of the guys they have on the interior. Maybe if they aren't able to bring pressure, then boom, Broncos got a really good chance to be explosive with that offense. Yeah. So just kind of depending, kind of like the Titans right now. I think they have good interior guys. Their edge guys are not great. So the Broncos could stand a decent chance of putting up okay numbers. I don't think they're going to go like 30 or more points in that game, but I could see 24. I don't think that's completely unrealistic.
I would not. I'm afraid to put anything like that out there because of what a crazy advantage the Broncos have weeks 1 and 2 at home. Like, they always beat teams, and they've only lost like 1 or 2 games in the new Mile High stadiums in week 1 or 2. I think one of them was against the Bears. So it's pretty darn incredible. Week 1 and 2, like, everybody always gets super excited because the Broncos start off great, and then they kind of, at least recently, kind of even out. But week 1 or 2, things can happen. So I'm not ready to say that. And we got great donation here from Harry Burgos. Thank you. Backup talent. I think such takes are short-sighted and out of context. Drew came off 11 weeks without practicing with team and went 4-1 as a rookie. Before that, he played college with subpar offense and learned multiple new offenses. I'm just saying more so that you can't really I'm not saying Drew is a backup talent by any means, but like the defensive backs they were going against, definitely some backup talent, maybe even not backup talent given the Broncos' questions in the secondary. So it's just wait and see. And I know that's not hot takey, but that's not really my style. I'd rather be sure than put out a hot take full of hot air.
Yeah, I'm with you there. And then, of course, Mundungus coming back in once again. Bring it with another super chat. Appreciate that, Mundungus. All right, let's get back to the offensive line here, because, that's something we were just talking about, how this offense is going to be able to handle things here. Offensive tackles. I have Garrett Bowles, Elijah Wilkinson, DeMar Dotson.
Okay, I have 4 tackles technically, because I also have Calvin Anderson, but that's because I had a question. One of the positions when I filled this out was question marks, and that was hopefully a chance to talk about Riley Reif. Unfortunately, that has become not a reality for the Broncos. He did have a contract renegotiation, which, man, media really missed the mark on that one because it sounded like it was inevitable that he was going to be cut. But I have Bowles, Wilkinson, Anderson, and Dotson. But that Anderson one, I'll be honest, I'm looking at my spreadsheet right now. It's just question mark. So I'm grabbing one from thinner. I know they just claimed a tackle as well. I've been busy. I can't remember who it is at the top of my head. So maybe him as well. But that is my direction as well. And it's also because Wilkinson's swing status.
Yeah. All right. Adam Sears here, ready to back you up here, Nick. Another Iowa boy in the house. So you're not alone. And all right. So then offensive guard center, I have Dalton Reisner, Lloyd Cushenberry, Graham Glasgow, Austin Schlottman, and Moody.
Okay, I have Moody on IR. I'll be honest, I have not heard that much about him, but I think my plan was always to redshirt him this season to bring him about slowly because of how serious his injuries have been. So I know you have to pass through waivers to go on IR, and maybe that's too dangerous to do. But for the simple roster math here, I have Moody on IR. That said, I have that question mark position. I could slide Wilkinson over to tackle and put Moody in that question mark offensive line position. Other than that, Breisner, Cushenberry, Morris, Glasgow, and Schlottman.
Okay. Yeah, I figure, again, with so much information coming out about the offensive line being a problem, there's not going to be a lot of guys picking up these guys off of waivers. So you're going to be able to sneak them onto the practice squad. If you got an injury week 1, you can bring them in. So I'm not too worried about those guys and losing somebody that would know the offense. So then that brings us to our final position on the offense, tight end. I only have 4. I have Noah Fant, Nick Vannett, Albert Okwuegbunam, and Jake Butt.
So I have the same as you, but I do have Beck. So Fant, Vannett, Okwuegbunam, Butt, and Beck.
Okay, you went 5
and tight end.
5 tight ends. Okay.
And this one, the roster math worked out. So, and also I went with 4.5 tight ends because honestly, we're all pulling for but until we see it out there consistently for more than, let's say, past week 2,
Yeah.
I just don't know. I don't know how you can count on him at all.
Yeah.
So that's just the direction I went for now.
Okay. I went pretty light on the offense and pretty heavy on the defense just because it's Vic Fangio making decisions. He's going to want his guys. So I kind of lean that direction that I would add extra guys on the defense with the hopes that the offensive guys, because they're young, because they're inexperienced, they thought they could get them more on the practice squad than some of their defensive guys.
I went 25, 25, and 3. So right down the middle.
Got to be the
even Steven.
And before we get to the defense, though, Harry Borges, Eric Davis on 104.3, The Fan, said Drew Lock was backup talent.
I thought Harry was coming at me, and I thought maybe I said something stupid. So I'm glad to know it wasn't me that said something stupid.
Yeah.
That's all I'll say about
that. Thank you for clarifying that, Harry, and appreciate the super chat. Just always good to see you, and thanks for the comments. Let's see. All right, we got a question here. Just before we get to the defense, we got some offensive questions. Chase Wellner coming in. How has Calvin Anderson looked in camp? So I'm sure everybody has seen the clip that he put out there where he did the double block, and that one looked good. But there's not been much else out there beyond that. It sounds like he's kind of been up and down, just like all the other tackles that have been out there. Had his days. He's showed some promise, and I would say, if there's another guy that I would put at tackle to make the team, it would be him.
That's why I went with him over Rodgers. Also, there's the benefit of youth. I don't know if he has the feet or the flexibility in his base to be a long-term tackle. In college, he had a lot of issues with speed rushers, and you're going to get a heavy dose of that in the AFC West. So we'll see. It's obviously not ideal, but we're talking about the Broncos tackle situation. It hasn't been ideal since Ryan Clady and Ryan Harris took the field. So it is what it is. So unfortunate in that regard, but it could be Harris. I put Moody on IR to make room for Harris because I just never pictured Moody being in the Broncos' plans this season. But with it being a weird season where guys have to go through waivers first to go on the IR, maybe that changes the math. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know.
Yeah, like I said, I was trying to figure out guys that I thought could get through waivers. That was definitely factored into, because at least once you get them on the practice squad, then you got 4 guys that you can protect. Mm-hmm. But you have to get them through that first wave. And then each week you can protect 4 guys is the way it's going to work. I've been reading up on this quite a bit today. So if anybody has any questions on how the new practice squad rules are going to work, you can ask them there in the comments, and I'll try to get them to you. But it's complicated, but they're trying to get as many players, and it does seem like most of the 80 players that are there are going to still be on a roster somewhere.
Yeah, that's probably how it'll play out.
Yeah.
So defense now, obviously. Actually, let's station identification here real quick, guys. This is the Building the Broncos podcast. We are here every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Mountain Time, although maybe that's subject to change with my move out here to Seattle, because now my hours have switched by 2. So we'll see if that changes. We'll let you guys know anything if that happens. But where will you hear about that information? On Twitter at BTB Football Pod. Follow us on there, add us. We will answer your questions. Also, Mothership at Mile High Huddle. Follow us there. Most importantly, guys, subscribe, like, and share. We'd really appreciate that. And also, we got these MHH Facebook supporters. This is all new to us here, guys. At least for me, I've been gone last week, moving across the country. But we got a bunch of MHH Facebook supporters here. We got Asweb Pabita. Sorry, you can at me on Twitter. If I say your name wrong, I owe you an explanation. You call me out. I'll get that right next time. Steve Griffith, Jerry Holen, Michael Lewis, Emmy Lee, Gerald Hendy, Chris Hernandez, Roger Gutke, Jeff Hustle, Amber Lee, Christopher Pace. So really do appreciate you guys. That would be great. And that's Pabby. Okay, she goes by her last name. That makes a lot of sense. Pabby, you're number 1. Also, guys, shout out to Pabby. I actually asked her on Twitter if this was okay to talk about, but she had surgery, and it was due to the C word that we're not supposed to say on here. But she told me to say that she's doing okay, to let you guys know, and any well wishes or anything like that, good vibes out in the universe, she would appreciate. But Pabby's on our thoughts and prayers as well here at MHH.
For sure. Thank you, Poppy. Really appreciate it. And heal up soon. Get back to us because we always love seeing you in the chat.
Absolutely.
All right. So you ready for defense?
Oh,
okay.
Absolutely. Always.
Okay. All right. Let's do this. So edge players. I have Von Miller, Bradley Chubb, Malik Reed, Jeremiah Tachu, and Justin Hollins.
I love that you listed Hollins as an edge player because that seems to be a point of contention.
I hate that they are moving him back and forth. There's very few young players that I think a team should ever move away from one position. Stick them in one position, let them learn that one position really well. And as they develop in their NFL career, then maybe expand what they can do. But it's enough to learn one position, especially a guy coming in like Justin Hollins, who was pretty raw and was needing to learn just even more. He's just a raw athlete. And then all of a sudden you throw all this extra stuff at him. And I do think that pass rusher is his best position. He has issues with being able to turn out there in space. That's just not what he's ever been taught. It's not what he's good at. And so again, I just think stick him at edge. Go ahead and say, this is where you're going to be for the next 3 years. We're going to find other guys that can be the off-ball guy.
Yeah, and here's an interesting comment here from Chase Wellner. Hollins is getting the DeMarcus Walker treatment. I don't know if we're ever getting there's been some concern surrounding DeMarcus Walker as far as entitlement, and that has been an issue for him. But I haven't really gotten that from Hollins, at least from people I've spoken with. Also, we're talking about a 2nd-round pick versus a 5th-round pick, so you have to kind of look at those as different values, different expectations. But I agree with you. I think Hollins' best fit is as an edge rusher, using that length to the ability to beat pass rushers or beat offensive tackles. He just does not look natural in space going backwards at that tackle position. So I listed it. I'll be honest. I listed him as an off-ball linebacker because Eric is constantly in my ear. They want him at linebacker. They want him at linebacker. But my eyes say that's not right. That's not where he should be. So I appreciate that. You're going with my mind instead of my heart. My heart is saying, listen, Eric, on this one, he's probably right. But I think that's probably not the best decision for him long-term or the Broncos. But we'll see. My edge rushers, I don't have Tuska making it. I have Tuska going to the practice squad. I did not list a 16-person practice squad, guys, but I do have some names written down. Almost all rookies. But I have Von Miller making it, shocker. Bradley Chubb, shocker. Jeremiah Tachu, and Malik Reed. Because Reed has been getting, I'm burping up this beer. Thanks to my drink, my beverage. Shout out to Lance, who got me a 6-pack when I stopped by Wyoming. It's the end of the 6-pack. So Lance, you're a real one. But it sounds like Reed is getting much more push from the Broncos players as well as the coaches as being that 4th edge rusher. So Tuska, practice squad probably, and then Malik Reed, that 4th edge rusher.
Yeah. And yeah, Chase, he has been looking better as the training camp has gone on. It's kind of been interesting. The first couple practices, I was hearing Tuska's name a little bit more. And ever since then, he's kind of just dropped off and being called out what he's doing on the field, where Malik Reed has really kind of risen to the top and really substituted in there on that right side, left side, I guess, depending on how you're looking at it. But he's been making some plays. And, last year, training camp, preseason, the guy was making plays left and right. First couple weeks of the season, making plays left and right. It was just, I think, being that starter, getting all those reps, he fits better as a backup than a starter.
Honestly, this is totally off the wall, but in my opinion, if there's any Broncos edge rusher that should make that transition to off-ball linebacker, it's Tuska.
Yeah.
That's just me. I think he moves better that way. He's really short-armed. He's pretty small. I don't know if he can hold up on the edge, hanging up on gaps, but he's pretty – they talk about him being pretty intelligent. And I think that if there's any of those edge, I mean, it makes more sense than Hollins is, 6'5" self trying to move awkward backwards. I don't know. So we'll see what they do with him. It'll be interesting, no doubt. But Tuska, practice squad. Interior defensive line now. This is my favorite position. I love the big boys on the interior.
How about you start with your list then on this one?
All right, so I have obviously Jarrell Casey making it, Mike Purcell making it, Shelby Harris making it, and then 3 backups. Draymond Jones, I'm expecting a big year from him. I honestly think he's going to surpass Shelby Harris in terms of impact. McTelvin Najim, Sosa, whatever he wants to go by. And then I do have DeMarcus Walker making it, but that last one I kind of went back and forth on a few different names.
Yeah.
Covington is also there. So.
Right. It just kind of depends on what they want out of that backup spot. Yeah. Because in some ways you kind of have Draymond Jones, McTelvin Najim both kind of bring in a lot of the same skill set that DeMarcus Walker. Well, I think so. I think what their pass rush ability, I would say their pass rush ability is above their run stopping ability.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at with both of them.
I think they're grooming Najim for nose tackle.
And that wouldn't shock me one bit. But again, to me, then DeMarcus Walker kind of triples up that he's a better pass rusher than run stopper.
Yeah.
So do you want another run stopper to be added to that list compared to all these pass rushers? I know pass rush is the name of the game in the NFL, but there is a point where you still need some backups as a run defender. But I'm with you. I have the same 6. I went back and forth on DeMarcus Walker or not, but he seems to find a way to make this roster every year. And
he blocked me on Twitter, so I wouldn't know.
But all right, off-ball linebacker. I have Todd Davis, Alexander Johnson, Josie Jewell, Mark Barron, and Joe Jones.
Okay, I have all the same as you, except I have Hollins listed as a linebacker, and I do not have Joe Jones making the squad. That was a hard one to cut. I know he has special teams value, but I think Hollins has special teams value as well.
Yeah, so that was, like I said, I had 2 roster spots left when I got done with my list of guys that I'm pretty sure will make the roster. And so my final 2, I was going, okay, who brings the most special teams? Joe Jones was one of my guys, and I'll tell you who the other one is when we get to their name. But that's why he ended up making my list.
Okay. I like Joe Jones' athletic ability. I remember him running around the field at Northwestern, especially on special teams. But I think I was looking for a way to fit Hollins on the squad instead. So Hollins had a bit more value. And hopefully I'm not cutting in and out here, Carl. You kind of lagged on me a little bit. So hopefully I'm good.
I think you're doing okay. I think
but is my connection okay?
I think you're good.
Okay, good. But yeah, right. Mark Barron as well. Safety linebacker, but really he's kind of a small linebacker. So
right,
we'll see how that works out.
Right. So now we got AJ Boye, Bryce Callahan, Devontae Bosby, Isaac Adam, Michael Ojemudia, Devontae Harris.
I have 6 cornerbacks. I have AJ Boye, Bryce Callahan, Devontae Bosby, Isaac Yadam, and Devontae Harris making it. So Yadam, again, you're talking about special teams ability. I could already kind of fit that linebacker body into that position with Hollins. So instead I went with Yadam.
Okay. And then final position, safety, because, I mean, we could talk about specialists, but we don't need to. I have Justin Simmons, Kareem Jackson, Duke Dawson, Trey Marshall, Elijah Holders, that one that for special teams. He was my final guy on my 53-man roster.
I cheated a little bit with safety. I do have, obviously, Justin Simmons, Kareem Jackson. Don't love the safety depth behind them. That's a position was highlighting leading up to the NFL draft. Jeremy Chin was somebody I was interested in. Terrell Burgess also, but it didn't come out that way. So I do have Trey Marshall. And that last one, actually, I cheated a little bit because I have Dawson listed as that 4th safety. He's really kind of a nickelback and a safety, but with how versatile Fangio requires those safeties to be, I think it makes sense.
Yeah.
I think it makes sense to fit those guys in there. I mean, Jackson plays a lot of nickel anyway, so Dawson could come in and be that filler for Jackson if the need came.
Okay. All right. Well, those in the comments listening live here, where do you disagree with us the most? What position or what
player? Ojibwe is on there. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Okay, just making sure. I was going to bring that up here. Of course. Well, he's got to make the team. He's a 3rd round pick. There's no way they're letting him get to the waiver wire. There's a reason that they took him 3rd round because they didn't think he was going to make it to the 4th. And so, yes, there's no way they're letting him go. I do see a lot of people going with the Covington hype.
I mean, if he makes it over DeMarcus Walker, that'll be one less player on the Broncos roster that has me blocked. So, and I think DeMarcus Walker blocked me because sometimes I like to make memes, and this one wasn't very nice. I can admit that. Carl's the nice one on the pod. I'm the devil. But I did one with the milk carton with the missing person, and it was a picture of DeMarcus Walker on it. It was like after he was inactive for like 12 games in a row. It's like, where's Walker? So I thought it'd be funny.
And CC, Holder did make my roster.
Didn't make mine.
He did not make Nick's, yeah.
I haven't seen enough of him. It's just hard for me to say. I'm more comfortable. There's some expression. I cannot remember it off the top of my head, but the go with the devil, or something like that. I can't remember it, but I know Yadam brings it on special teams. So I went with him over Holder for that regard. Two different positions, but both at defensive back, special teams niche.
Yeah. So center depth. So of course I have Lloyd Cushenberry starting, Austin Schlottman as that backup guy, and the emergency center, if you absolutely need him to, Graham Glasgow.
I mean, Schlottman, Morris, and did you not have Morris making it?
I did not have Morris making the roster.
Oh, okay. I missed that. Okay.
Like I said, I went really light on the offense, hoping some of those guys like a Patrick Morris could be on the practice squad. And so if there is an injury, say Lloyd Cushenberry goes down, I'm going to knock on some wood here, week 1, you still have Patrick Morris right there. I don't think anybody's going to be picking him up. So that's why I didn't have him making it.
Okay, that makes sense. I mean, Patrick Morris feels like such a niche player because he's so small, very athletic, but so small. Honestly, if this was bad, I'd love to get some fullback reps from Patrick Morris. But I think I have them all making it. It's just, I guess going over the roster also, this is something that we talked about. What was the hardest position for you to decide? Because for me, it was getting down to the end of the offensive line. I mean, I literally had that last position as just question marks because I did not know. I was really hoping for Riley Reef. In the end, I went with Calvin Anderson, but that's totally in relation to Moody being able to go on IR. So I guess, what did you have issues with?
I had issue with safety just because really the only two guys I've heard, I've heard really good things about 3 guys: Elijah Holder, Justin Simmons, Kareem Jackson. Those are the only 3 I've actually heard like positive things coming out of camp of what they're doing at the safety position. Duke Dawson, just because, hey, they traded for him. Like you said, that versatility of what he plays there with the nickel, with safety. I figure that fits well with Fangio. Trey Marshall,
Kareem Jackson spoken up today too. Also, Duke Dawson, that is.
Yeah, Trey Marshall, I have him just because again he keeps sticking with the team. They seem to like something about him because different coaching staffs have wanted this guy around, and so that's why I included him as well. And again, that's another guy for special teams.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. That's that safety one. Again, I've heard some positive about Elijah Holder, but I have a really hard time just taking people's word of mouth from that, and I haven't seen it myself. So I know that Holder was a guy did he even play last year in preseason at all? Like, didn't he get injured or something? They kind of like shuffled to hide him.
I can't remember what all happened with him.
Okay, so I think that we did not really get to see him, so that way they could kind of like hide him and then put him on ice for years to hopefully see him this year. So if he makes the roster over Trey Marshall, who doesn't really impress me one bit, then I would be really interested about that. But I think Trey Marshall also, as far as this defense goes, I think he'd have been a better fit in that Wade Phillips style of defense where you have very dichotomized safeties because he comes off as a classic strong safety to me. I just don't see the movement and coverage ability on the back end. So it'll be interesting to see. I am pulling for Coleman to make the practice squad. He's somebody that I also wrote down here as a practice squad. I also wrote down Holder. So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, again, this is for as much as we talk about this is the least confident I've ever been about filling out a 53-man roster because I have no preseason to go off of. And typically I'd be so football starved by this point that I'd watch each preseason game 4 or 5 times. And just that's not the world we're living in right now. But so it'll be interesting to see what happens on Saturday. And I guess Luke and I will get to talk about that.
There you go. Well, Chris Hernandez coming in here with another super chat. Appreciate that, Chris. Cheers, MHH fam. Still at work, but wanted to show some love. # click those little thumbs up. Yes, Chris is right. Click those thumbs up for us if you possibly can. And Chris, really appreciate it. Hope you have a good day at work. And we're putting in some work here, but we're having fun with it. I love it. Love it.
If you can call it work.
Yeah, I know. This is the fun stuff. And I always tell my wife whenever we're getting ready to do the show, I got to go over to work. And she's like, yeah, right.
Your wife sounds like my wife in that regard.
Yeah, pretty much. But it's tough to really figure this out. You don't have as much information on these young guys. And so, I mean, really, if you look at our rosters, we don't have a lot of the undrafted guys or unknown guys. There's a couple of them, but beyond that there's not a whole lot of them. It's a lot of more known or draft pick guys that just, the team is going to keep around because they're high draft picks. So it's kind of a weird year. I agree with you, Royce Freeman. I'm not sure if he makes the roster if we had preseason games, but that's the name of the game right now.
I guess. Okay. So here's a good question for you. I haven't seen anybody bring it up. Are there any camp battles that you are really disappointed or preseason battles that you really didn't get to see more of because of the state of the world in football right now?
Well, I would have loved to seen the cornerback battle.
Yeah.
I mean, because Bosby, Yadam, Ojemudia, Harris, all four of those guys battling for that third spot, that third cornerback. That would have been fun to watch out there to see who's making plays, who makes the mistakes. Because, it's one of those, I think Yadam's one of those guys, he can shine in practice, but I want to be able to see it in games because he obviously earned his spot last year. And then he got into a game and just got torched and never recovered.
Yeah.
So
I definitely agree with you there.
That's one position I would have loved. I would have loved to seen the defensive line as well. I mean, I know that's your people, but getting to see Ajim, man, that would have been fun to watch that guy. Draymond Jones, to see how improved is he compared to last year. Just those young guys to see, are they ready to take that next step to be the next wave of great interior defensive linemen for the Broncos?
I think the position that I'm honestly most bummed not to get to see in regards to training camp and everything that they bring to the table is the tight end position, honestly, because you have Noah Fant progressing to year 2. What does that mean? He was one of the youngest players in the NFL last year. He should take a big step forward this year. He's also dealing with an injury to end last season. So he's one that you're really relying on to take that step to become a top 10 tight end in football this year, top 12 tight end in football this year. And given his first round status, I think that should be a reasonable expectation. If he doesn't hit that, then he's not a bust. But I think that's a reasonable expectation for him this year in confines of what the offense looks like.
Right.
Another one, Albert Okwuegbunam, keeps getting hype. I want to see what this looks like. I mean, watching him at Mizzou, caught a lot of touchdowns, plays up the seam, but he was tackled pretty often. And also he kind of turns like a battleship. Now, utilize the correct way, like DK Metcalf turns like a battleship, that can work for you. But I'm curious what that looks like. And then there's Jake Butt. Jake Butt has been this just mirage for years. I mean, the fact that he was one pick before George Kittle, not to pour salt in anyone's wounds, but that's like the fact that he's getting hype right now. I mean, could he develop into that tight end too? He's never really going to be that classic Y because he doesn't block like you think, like you'd want. But still, there's value there. And then there's Vinette. Obviously, you paid a big contract to him. Andrew Beck, where does he fit in? So it will be interesting. And I know that we have Todd Anderson saying Fumagalli over Butt because of blocking. Fumagalli is not a good blocker either. I know that he went to Wisconsin, but they really utilized him like in the slot a lot. So he's kind of that turn around and catch the ball and fall over kind of guy.
Right.
So,
well, and the other issue is he's recovering from surgery now.
Yes.
So It does sound like it's supposed to be a quick recovery, but these are extra practices that you're missing. And it is one of those things where everything is microwaved. So one bad practice equals about 5 or 6 from last year.
Yep.
And one good practice equals about 5 or 6. So Jake Butt has had some decent practices where people are hyping him up and they're seeing him make plays out there where Fumagalli hasn't been the guy making a whole lot of plays. I mean, it's not that he's been bad. It's just Jake Butt has made a name for himself a little bit. If you put up their tape side by side as far as college tape, Butt blows Fumagalli out of the water. Yeah.
And I know that, honestly, I don't even know if Fumagalli is that much better of a blocker, other than the fact that Fumagalli gets a Wisconsin bump.
Yeah.
So we'll see. And James
Right.
Campbell coming in here, a good point. Could be an IR candidate. I think Ford's probably the guy that I'd be most interested in on the IR, just because of the athletic upside, the receiving upside. But I've never been a big Fumagalli fan. I think he's kind of like Josie Jewell at tight end, which that hurts me to say as an Iowa fanatic. But
Right.
you can be slow, you can be small, but when you're slow and small, I don't know about you in the NFL. That is
Right. CC coming in here to remind us just with practice squad and how it's going to work this year. Some new rules. 6 veterans can be put on the practice squad. Definitely won't be the final roster, even after they cut down to 53. Here's something I will say, though. The NFL has said, even if a player tests negative on another team and then gets cut and another team picks them up, that team has to go through all of the protocols. That's why it took like Mark Barron a long time to be signed, Dotson a long time to be signed, because there's about a 3 or 4 day window of waiting for all the tests to come back and everything. It's a longer process than before. That's why I'm not sure how many waiver claims you're going to see this year compared to years past.
Yeah, I mean, we're just speculating. Honestly, we are in uncharted waters right now as far as how this roster is going to work out, what the waiver wire process is going to be like. I mean, you think we don't know about it? Heck, the NFL teams really don't know about it. I mean, they've been working on it for a while now, but how it ends up turning out is a complete guesstimation at this point. So we will see what happens.
Well, and I mean, I have to laugh. It's kind of like the draft. All of us were predicting like the draft just to go crazy with all these trades and everything else, because they've had nothing else to do but prepare for the draft. And then what did they do? They went the first 15, 16. I can't remember how many picks they went straight without a single trade.
The first trade was the Buccaneers moving from 14 to 13.
Oh, that's right. Okay. So, but to not have any action in the top 10 of the draft is unheard of.
Yeah.
And so again, that's why I'm saying even teams don't really, like you said, teams don't know exactly what to expect with some of this. There might be some veterans that get cut that maybe wouldn't have, because a little bit with the salary cap for next year, you don't want big contracts on your salary cap, not knowing how much you're going to have available for next season either.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, that's one of the reasons I thought Riley Reif might become available also. So, and then I saw the Lions paid an offensive tackle too. I'm already thinking next year.
Decker.
Yep. Sam Decker. He was in the same draft as Larry Tunsil and Ronnie Stanley, I believe. So, and Jack Conklin. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. We got a question here from James Campbell. Somebody's asking, hey, who are going to be the Broncos special teams aces? Campbell comes in here. Bosby, Jones, and Cleveland as special teams aces. I'm not sure about Bosby. I never really took him he's length and fluid for his size, but never really took him as a physical guy who's going to punch you in the mouth. Jones, if he makes a roster, yes, that's him. Cleveland, if he makes a roster, yes, that's how those guys are going to make impacts this season. But I'm not sure about Bosby as much.
Yeah, and it was Taylor Decker is the guy that was signed to the big contract. And that kind of hurts if the Broncos, let's say Garrett Bowles has a good season, that just ups his value, because Taylor Decker's not exactly lighting the league on fire as a left tackle. But anyway, yes, special team aces. I could see Mark Barron being one. If they don't give him as much run on defense, he's got enough speed to go make some plays down the field. I'd say Elijah Holder is another, if he makes the roster, that I could see being a nice special teams player for him. And Tyree Cleveland is probably my guy that I think is going to make some of the bigger plays if he makes the roster. Because, again, that speed, just getting down there, beating that wedge, whatever you want to do, man, that's where you get some big plays. That was Kayvon Webster during that 2015 season, guy that just had enough speed to really get down there and make some big plays. So those would be my guys, I think.
Yeah, I think those are good ones. Justin Holland comes to mind for me as being one. Again, Isaac Yiadom. That's one of the things that made me fall in love with his tape at Boston College. Somebody did a career highlight cut up of Yiadom, and a lot of his, I think it was junior year tape, was him, punter, gunner, or the blocker on the punching side, the returning side, and he was killing it. I mean, really physical, not the best hips. I mean, we've seen that all. Darren Waller showed that time and time again on Monday Night Football last year. But as far as the physicality on special teams, I think Adam has that. And I think Tim Patrick also still brings some ability as that special teams ace. I think Tyree Cleveland has much more potential. He's more cost controlled, but you have much more of a known quantity in Tim Patrick. And again, that's the reason I went that way instead. Yeah. Now, if they went Tyree Cleveland instead, God bless him. Going youth, going long-term, I appreciate it. I just think with the C word going on in the world right now, the safer bet would be Patrick. So that's the reason I went that way. We got Mrs. T coming in. Tell Mr. T I said hello. I loved him in the A-Team. Welcome to Washington, Nick. We're in the Tacoma area ourselves. Awesome. If you want a beautiful hike before end of season, I highly recommend Rattlesnake Ridge. I've heard that one is beautiful. We have still a lot to do in the house here because we've been busy. But if we don't get to go on a hike next weekend, this upcoming weekend, I'm going to be very pouty. So we better figure one out. I really want to do, I think, Lake Serene, Snow Lake, or there's one more that's coming to mind. I can't think of it right now, but don't worry. I got my hiking books. I got my backpacking books. I'm ready to go. If there's no Big Ten football this Saturday, that's where you're going to see me. I'm going to be on the trail somewhere.
There you go. Yeah. I went every other weekend when I lived up there. My wife and I would go find a new trail to go hike. We miss that.
Did you have a favorite?
I'd have to look up names. It's been so long. That's almost been 8 years now since we lived there. So I'll have to look up some names and I'll send them your way. But I did want to get to this. Todd Anderson, hopefully Alberto and Fant have a big season.
Gosh, so we really hope so.
Here's my question to you. Do you think that both of them can have a big season in the same season?
Not in 2020. Maybe 2022. 2020, they're probably in the same niche. So that's probably the reality of it. If Fant, let's say Fant could have a big season with Alberto having an okay season, but if Alberto has a huge season, odds are something happened to Fant.
Yeah.
So let's knock on wood that doesn't happen.
Yeah. So I see, and I've been saying this since they drafted Okwuegbunam, that his role for this year is probably going to be red zone targets.
Seam stretchers.
Yep. I some of those plays, I just see, that's what he brought when he was in college, that touchdown machine, because he can go above the rim. He can get above everybody else. He's not afraid to fight for the football, is one thing that Noah Fant had a little bit of issue with last year. And so I think he could be in that like 6 to 7 touchdown range with only like 15 to 20 catches kind of thing. I don't know how much run Alberto is going to get, because the other thing is, you stick both of them on the field at the same time, you have very much damaged your run game. Noah Fant is, from what I understand, he's improving as a run blocker and a pass blocker, but he's not great at it. And I don't think he's ever going to be an all-star at it. Alberto, he's not great at it. That's not what he's known for. That's not what he's bringing to the team. And so I do wonder a little bit about the damage that can come with having both of them on the field at the same time, of really cueing the defense to know, okay, they are passing. Now, if it's third down and it's a passing situation, yeah, bring them on the field. Let them go make their plays. But I just feel like Vanette's the guy that you want having if you're going to do the 2 tight end set with Noah Fant.
Especially if this is going to be a team that relies on the run game earlier. I mean, as much as I am not a big fan of the run game, if it takes away from the pass game, I think that's probably the direction this team goes, as they kind of try to figure out themselves. Maybe even, I hate to say it, but maybe even baby lock in the passing offense just a little bit. Maybe baby's the wrong word. Just be a little bit conservative going off. I mean, you have these 2 running backs for a reason, right? So you can kind of give yourself a little bit of leeway with that. So we'll definitely see. Let me see. We got Terry Randall coming back in here. Terry Randall from north of the border. Love you, Terry. It's always 5 o'clock somewhere. # state of being. Appreciate that. And with that, guys, we should probably get on out of here. Get time to end another episode of Building the Broncos. You guys can find Carl on Twitter at Carl Dumler MHH and myself at Nick Kendell MHH. Make sure you go on over to milehighhuddle.com, an affiliate of Sports Illustrated. Also, guys, on YouTube, like, share, subscribe. That can do a world of good for us. Like, react, positive react on Facebook. Don't give us those angry reacts. We don't like those. Go to iTunes and leave us a 5-star rating and a comment. as all those things you can do, the great support for us and that can help us continue to bring you our Denver Bronco deep dives every single day of the week. I mean, it's not just this show, obviously. It's Mile High Insiders, it's Huddle Up Podcast, it's Dub Valley Deep Divers. And so obviously, if you like Building the Broncos the best, say that in the iTunes comments. But we're all here for you. You can follow the Building the Broncos podcast and all our other great audio content. Again, subscribe wherever you listen to the shows. Follow us on Twitter at Mile High Huddle and at BTB Football Pod. Carl, you got any plans the rest of the night? Something fun going on?
I got a men's conference thing that I got this evening right after this. So I run right across the street, go hang out with a bunch of guys. We talk about, we just talk about everything, it seems like. So that's kind of my evening plans, and then go get some sleep.
Well, I'm going to be unpacking. We might take the dog on a walk, but that's the extent of my fun time. It's still a blue sky here in Seattle. Typically, it's getting dark about now where I used to do these. So hopefully this was pretty good, guys. This will continue to evolve behind us. Right now, I'm right by the router to hopefully get the best internet possible because I still don't know about that in our place. And this is an empty guest room, but we'll figure it all out. But we appreciate you guys. We'll see y'all next week, same time, same place. As always, go Broncos.